Without turning this course into a Q&A session, I want to address another question that we received. We've been asked how we'd go about creating swirling cloth pieces in mid-air, and I think the guy asking saw the X-Particle showreel and wanted to build something similar in Vellum. So, let's go! Start out with a grid, again, dive in there, scale this to be 3 by 1 with 30, by 90 rows and columns, and you can dial those down for now to experiment with the settings so it simulates quicker. Let's dial them to 10, respectively 30. That's really low res, but for now it'll do. Also, I'm going to drop down a sphere and scatter some points in it on which we'll copy those individual pieces of cloth. So let's drop down an ISO offset 2, maybe set it to 50 samples, and then scatter maybe 20 points in there and increase the relax iterations to 40. So we have a few points within this sphere here. Let's scale the sphere up a bit to 2.5, like this, so we have a bigger sphere here. And then use the new attrib randomize to randomize the orientation. Let's call it orient, 4-dimensional vector, and let's set the distribution to direction or orientation. And now drop down a copy to point, and copy those grids onto those points, which now have their orientation randomly adjusted. In the attrib randomize under options, you can dial in the global seed if you don't like the orientation. It's fine for me now. Those intersections, we'll have to see if they are bad in the simulation or not, so we have to tweak this maybe later. Next, really straightforward, dropping down a Vellum cloth and attaching to it a Vellum solver. Within the Vellum cloth, I'll just dial down the bend stiffness to 0.001, so it's really light and bends easily. And in the Vellum solver, let's disable the gravity, setting this to 0. And in the solver tab, let's use 2 substeps with maybe 10 constraint iterations. So let's highlight that, and when we hit play, nothing should happen. Yeah, exactly. Just quickly save this. And in order to get this whole cloth swirling going, let's dive into the Vellum solver. And I want to use 2 nodes here. One to generate a turbulent behavior for those pieces of cloth, and one to get the swirling going. Let's start with the swirling. I'm going to use the pop axis force. Again, Vellum is all pops, so I can use pops force here. And I will just scale the radius of this vector to 2 and set its height to maybe 10. The axis direction is along the y-axis, that's okay. Let's have a look at the speed, and let's see how that looks. So already I get those pieces swirling. Some of them are sticky, so I might have to dial in different seeds for the initial position. But overall, this already looks convincing. So now let's just add to it a tiny bit of turbulence by using the pop wind right in here. And relevant for me is this noise here. So I want to increase its amplitude to say 1. And also I want to increase the turbulence a tiny bit to 4. And want to animate the offset in its 4th dimension, which is basically time for us. So $FF for frame times 0.15 maybe. Save this and hit play again. And yeah, this is kind of my basic setup. What I'm going to do now is dial in some values. So let's reset that head up. And I mean, basically what I'm trying here, because I'm cheap and I don't want to put too much time into resolving those intersections, I will just dial in some global seed that will look okay when I run the simulation. Maybe let's try that. Also increase my grids division, increase the rows to 30 and the columns to 90. And then I will simulate that, and after I will attach a Vellum post process. And in here I will enable a small spatial blur, so we smooth out some irregularities there. And also I will allow for 1 level of subdivisions. I'm gonna wire this in here. In the Vellum solver, also under simulation, I will increase the cache memory, so it caches my whole frame range. Save this and let this simulate. Yeah, alright, that wasn't exactly it, so let's dive back into the Vellum solver. And in the pop axis force, increase the radius a bit, so we are dragging more of our cloth pieces around. And also in the pop wind, let's maybe dial back the amplitude to 0.8. And let's dial back this frequency 2. And let's resim it. Let's stop this here and have a look at how this looks. Yeah, that's a bit more convincing. So now finally, see you next week, and it's cheers and goodbye.